Welcome to Night Whisper. Night Whisper brings you the darkest tales from the shadows. Join our community. Subscribe, leave a like, and prepare yourself for stories that will haunt your dreams. What about kids who finish high school and have no plan at all? Well, that was me. My name is Ethan, and I was still sleeping at 3 p.m. every day while my parents kicked me out and stopped threatening me. I figured I should do something, literally anything. I figured college would be expensive and pointless, and I didn't want to do anything job-wise because that's soul-crushing. So I saw a help-wanted sign in a store called Madam Laveau's half-priced Occult Emporium, and thought that's at least interesting, right? Wrong. It was terrifyingly wrong. The store is crammed between two old, run-down buildings on Marchant Street, where the streetlights just flicker and die, and the city never replaces them. Old neighborhood where you feel the need to walk faster and avoid eye contact with people on the corner. I would guess the store has been there for 100+ years. The paint is old and the wood is faded a lot, revealing old layers of paint, probably from the two colors underneath of it. The store is an old faded piece of history, like the city didn't know what to do with the building, so they just left it. A rusty iron sign hangs above the door, creaking in the wind, even when there isn't any wind. It reads, Madam Laveau's, in swirling letters that seem to move if you stare at them too long. Below it, hand-painted words promise, wishes granted, curses lifted, fortunes told, half price. Half price. That should have been my first red flag. I pushed open the door and immediately got hit with the smell. You know that scent of old incense mixed with something sweet and rotten? Like flowers dying in stagnant water? That's what hit me first. The second thing I noticed was the darkness. Despite it being 2 p.m. on a sunny day, the inside of the shop was dim, lit only by flickering candles scattered on every available surface. Shelves lined every wall from floor to ceiling, crammed with glass bottles filled with murky liquids, dried herbs tied in bundles, animal skulls, crystals, tarot decks, and things I couldn't identify. Voodoo dolls hung from the ceiling on thin strings, slowly sliding in a breeze I couldn't feel. Their button eyes seemed to follow me as I walked deeper into the shop. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small in the cluttered space. For a moment, nothing. Then I heard it, a sound like fabric dragging across wood, coming from somewhere in the back of the shop. The shadows seemed to shift and coalesce, and suddenly she was there. Madame Laveau. She stood behind an ornate counter. I swear wasn't there a second ago. Tall and elegant, she wore layers of deep purple fabric that seemed to flow around her like smoke. Her skin was the color of rich mahogany, smooth and ageless. But it was her eyes that grabbed you, deep amber, almost golden, and when she looked at you, it felt like she was seeing straight through to your soul. "You're here about the position," she said. Not a question. A statement. Yeah. I saw the sign in the window." She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. Too perfect. "How delightful. We've been needing help for quite some time now." Her voice had a thick Louisiana accent, smooth like honey, but with an edge that made you pay attention. "Tell me, child, what's your name?" "Ethan. Ethan Reeves." "Ethan?" She rolled my name around in her mouth like she was tasting it. "Tell me, Ethan Reeves, do you believe in magic?" I shrugged, trying to play it cool even though the atmosphere in this place was making my skin crawl. "I mean, I don't not believe in it." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a graveyard. "Honest, I appreciate that. Most young people these days are so certain of everything, so close-minded." She glided out from behind the counter, and I mean glided. Her feet didn't seem to touch the ground. "The position is simple. You work the front counter, help customers find what they need, clean up, and stock shelves. $25 an hour, cash, paid weekly." $25 an hour? For retail work? My minimum wage expecting brain couldn't process that. Seriously? Seriously, though I do have a few rules. She held up one long finger, the nail painted deep crimson. First, you arrive on time. When you enter, you will find a poppet, a voodoo doll, on the counter. You must stick a pin in it to clock in. This lets me know you've arrived. Weird, but okay. Second, you treat every customer with respect and discretion. What they purchase here is their business. You don't judge, you don't gossip, you don't ask unnecessary questions. Fair enough. Third, and this is very important, Ethan, you never, under any circumstances, go into the basement. Her amber eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me want to look away. But I couldn't. The basement is forbidden to you. There's a door behind this counter. It stays locked. You will hear things from down there sometimes. Ignore them. Never open that door. Do you understand? Every horror movie I'd ever watched was screaming at me to run, but 25 an hour was 25 an hour, and it's not like I had other options. I understand, I said. She smiled again, extending her hand. Then we have an agreement, Ethan Reeves. Welcome to Madam Laveau's half-priced Occult Emporium. You start tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. I shook her hand, and Jesus Christ, it was cold, not just cool. I mean ice cold, like shaking hands with a corpse. I pulled away quickly, but she didn't seem to notice, or if she did, she didn't care. I'll see you tomorrow then, I managed, backing toward the door. Oh, and Ethan? She called out just as I reached the exit. Dreams are just wishes your heart makes. But wishes have power. Remember that. I had no idea what she meant, but I nodded anyway and got the hell out of there. That night, I could barely sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those voodoo dolls spinning on their strings, their button eyes watching me. I heard that dragging sound, like fabric on wood. And I kept thinking about the basement, about what could possibly be down there that I wasn't allowed to see. But 25 an hour, man. 25 an hour. So the next morning, I showed up at 8:55 a.m., determined to prove I could handle this job, no matter how creepy the atmosphere was. The shop looked different in the morning light, or what little light managed to penetrate the grimy windows. The shadows seemed deeper somehow, the voodoo dolls more numerous than I remembered. Had there been that many yesterday? The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. Hello? Madam Laveau? Silence. The shop felt empty, abandoned even. But there on the counter, exactly where she'd said it would be, sat a voodoo doll. It was made of rough burlap, with button eyes and a stitched mouth. Blank, featureless, except for those details. Next to it lay a single long pin, its head adorned with a black bead. This was it, my weird clock-in system. I picked up the pin, hesitated for just a second, then pushed it firmly into the doll's chest. The reaction was immediate and horrifying. Every voodoo doll in the shop, and there had to be hundreds of them, turned their heads to look at me. All at once, the sound of creaking string and shifting fabric filled the air. Their button eyes fixed on me, unblinking. What the? I stumbled backward, my heart hammering. Then, just as suddenly, they all turned away, going back to their original positions like nothing had happened. Relax, child. Madame Laveau's voice came from right behind me. I spun around. She was there, appearing out of nowhere, just like yesterday. How did she do that? That's just them acknowledging you. You're part of the shop now. They know your presence. She moved past me to the counter, her purple fabrics trailing behind her. Now, let me show you the register and explain how transactions work here. The register was an antique thing, all brass and buttons that looked like it belonged in a museum. But when she demonstrated it, the thing worked perfectly, even though I never saw it plugged into anything. Most transactions are straightforward, she explained. Customer wants a love potion, you sell them a love potion. Customer wants a protection charm, you sell them a protection charm. Simple. And the wishes? I asked, remembering her sign. Her smile widened. Ah, yes, the wishes, those you bring to me. Never attempt to grant a wish yourself. Understand? Wishes are delicate things. They require my personal attention. How do they work exactly? A customer makes a wish. I grant it. But magic always has a price, Ethan. Always. The wish comes true, but not always in the way people expect. That's the beauty of it. People never think through what they're really asking for. Something about the way she said that made my skin crawl. What happens when a wish goes wrong? She looked at me with those amber eyes, and for just a second, I could have sworn I saw them glow. Then you clean up the mess. We keep a mop and bucket behind the counter. You'll find rubber gloves there too. Use them. Clean up what kind of mess? But she was already gliding away toward the back of the shop, toward that forbidden door. I have work to attend to in my sanctum. You'll be fine here alone. Most customers don't arrive until afternoon anyway. If you need anything, ring the bell. She gestured to a small brass bell on the counter. But only if it's truly important. I don't like being disturbed. And then she was gone, disappearing through a beaded curtain that led to the back rooms, leaving me alone in the shop with hundreds of creepy dolls for company. The first few hours were boring as hell. I explored the shop a bit, careful not to touch anything that looked too valuable or cursed. The potions on the shelves had handwritten labels in flowing script. Eternal youth, true love, vengeance, fortune, forget-me-not. Each bottle contained different colored liquids, some clear, some murky, some that seemed to swirl with their own internal movement. The voodoo dolls unnerved me the most. Each one was unique, crafted to resemble different people. Some were made of cloth, others of straw or wood. Some had hair attached, real human hair from the looks of it. And those button eyes, they really did seem to watch you. I tried using my phone to pass the time, but the signal in the shop was garbage. No Wi-Fi either. So, I just sat there behind the counter, listening to the shop's sounds, the creak of old wood, the flutter of candle flames, and occasionally, very faintly, sounds from beneath the floor. The basement. I'd almost forgotten about it, but now, in the quiet, I could hear it. A soft thump, then another. Not consistent enough to be mechanical, too irregular. It sounded almost like footsteps, or something being dragged. Remember Rule 3, I told myself. Don't go in the basement. Don't even think about the basement. At 1:30 p.m., the shop door swung open and my first customer walked in. She was young, maybe college age, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and athletic wear that suggested she'd been jogging. She looked around the shop with wide eyes, taking in all the occult paraphernalia with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Hi," I said, trying to sound professional and not at all creeped out by my surroundings. "Welcome to Madam Laveau's. How can I help you?" She approached the counter cautiously. "Is this place for real? Like, do you actually sell magic stuff?" "That's what the sign says." "Right, but does it actually work?" I shrugged. "I just started working here today, so I can't personally vouch for anything. But people seem to keep coming back, so I guess they're getting what they pay for." She chewed her lip, thinking. The sign outside said something about wishes? Oh boy, my first wish customer. "Yeah, we do wishes. Let me get my boss." I reached for the brass bell, but before I could ring it, Madame Laveau emerged from the back, appearing so silently that both the customer and I jumped. "A wish, you say?" Madame Laveau's voice was warm, inviting. "How wonderful. Tell me, dear child, what is your name?" "Sarah. Sarah Mitchell." "Sarah. Such a lovely name. Tell me, what is it you desire?" Sarah hesitated, glancing at me. Madame Laveau noticed. "Ethan, why don't you take your lunch break? There's a deli 2 blocks south. Take your time." It wasn't a suggestion. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door, but not before I heard Sarah begin to speak. "I wish my boyfriend would propose." The door shut behind me, cutting off the rest. I did find the deli, grabbed a sandwich, and killed about 45 minutes before heading back. The whole time, I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah and her wish. What was the catch? How could a wish go wrong? When I returned to the shop, Sarah was gone. Madam Laveau stood behind the counter, humming softly to herself. "Everything go okay?" I asked. "Perfectly. Lovely girl. I do hope things work out for her." The way she said it made me think things definitely weren't going to work out for her. "So what happens now? Does the wish just come true?" "In time. Magic works on its own schedule, Ethan. Could be hours, could be days, but it always works." I wanted to ask more, but something in her expression told me the conversation was over. The rest of my shift was uneventful. A few customers came in looking for tarot readings or protection charms, which I handled on my own. Madam Laveau stayed in the back, doing whatever mysterious thing she did. At 6 p.m., I pulled the pin out of the poppet to clock out. The voodoo dolls all turned to watch me leave. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. I'd show up, stick a pin in the poppet, handle simple customers, send wishmakers to Madame Laveau, and try my best to ignore the sounds coming from the basement. Each day, the sounds seemed a little louder, a little more insistent. On my 4th day, everything changed. I arrived at 9 a.m. as usual, stuck my pin in the poppet, and noticed something immediately wrong. There was a smell in the shop, not the usual incense and rot smell, but something metallic. Copper. Blood. "Madame Laveau?" I called out, my voice echoing in the empty shop. No response. I moved around the counter and saw it. A small pool of red liquid seeping out from under the basement door. My first instinct was to run, to get the hell out of there and never come back. But 25 an hour. And curiosity. Stupid curiosity. I grabbed a towel from behind the counter and knelt down to clean up the blood. As I wiped, I noticed something else. Scratches on the door, like someone had been clawing at it from the inside. Deep gouges in the wood, some fresh, some old. Then heard it, a voice from the other side of the door, weak, hoarse, desperate. "Help, please, help me." I froze, the bloody towel in my hand. "Someone, anyone. She keeps us down here. Please." It was a woman's voice, young, terrified. "Hello?" I whispered. "Who are you?" "My name is Sarah Mitchell. Please, you have to help me. She's keeping us down here. We can't get out." Sarah Mitchell, the girl with the boyfriend wish. "What happened to you?" "She granted my wish. My boyfriend proposed, but then she took me. Said I was payment. Said wishes always have a price. Please, you have to open the door. You have to..." "Ethan." I spun around so fast, I slipped in the blood, falling hard on my ass. Madame Laveau stood there, amber eyes blazing with fury. "I thought I made myself very clear about the basement." "I was just cleaning," I heard. "You heard nothing." Her voice was sharp, commanding. "The basement plays tricks on people, makes them hear things. It's part of the building's old magic. You didn't hear anything real." But I did. I knew I did. She moved forward, and I scrambled backward until I was pressed against the basement door. "Let me make something very clear to you, Ethan Reeves." She leaned down, her face inches from mine. "You work the register. You help customers. You do not question what happens in my shop. You especially do not listen to sounds from the basement. If you want to continue working here, you will follow my rules, all of them, without exception. Do you understand?" I nodded, unable to speak. "Good. Now clean up this mess properly and forget this ever happened." She straightened up and walked away, leaving me shaking on the floor. I should have quit right then. Should have walked out and never looked back. But I didn't. I cleaned up the blood, tried to convince myself I'd imagined Sarah's voice, and finished my shift. When I got home that night, I looked her up on social media. Sarah Mitchell's page was full of photos from earlier in the week. Her boyfriend on one knee, a diamond ring, her crying tears of joy, all her friends commenting congratulations. Then, nothing. No posts for 3 days. Her friends started commenting, asking if she was okay, where she'd gone. Her boyfriend posted, "If anyone has seen Sarah, please contact me. She hasn't been home since Tuesday. Police have been notified." Tuesday? The day she made her wish. I slammed my laptop shut and tried to sleep, but all I could hear was her voice from behind that door. "She's keeping us down here." Us. She'd said us. How many people were down there? The next morning, I seriously considered not going to work. I could ghost Madam Laveau, block my parents' calls about me being lazy, and find some soul-crushing fast food job where the scariest thing I'd deal with would be an angry Karen. But something kept pulling me back to that shop. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. Or maybe, deep down, I felt like I owed something to Sarah Mitchell and whoever else was trapped in that basement. When I arrived, Madame Laveau was already there, which was unusual. She typically appeared from the shadows sometime after I clocked in. Today, she stood at the counter, her long fingers drumming on the wood surface. "Ethan? Good, you're here. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. This was it. She was firing me. Or worse. "I owe you an apology," she said, which was definitely not what I expected. "I was harsh with you yesterday. The basement is a sensitive subject for me. Family matters, personal things. You understand." I didn't understand at all, but I nodded anyway. "To make it up to you, I'm giving you a raise, $30 an hour, and I'm going to teach you more about the business. You've been doing well, and I think you have potential." $30 an hour. Jesus. That was almost enough to make me forget about the blood and the scratching and Sarah's desperate voice. Almost. "Thank you," I managed. "Don't mention it." Her smile was warm, almost motherly. "Now, today, I want to teach you about the wishes. Not how to grant them, that's still my domain, but how to handle the aftermath." "The aftermath?" She moved behind the counter and pulled out a large wooden chest I hadn't noticed before. When she opened it, I saw it was filled with cleaning supplies, but not normal ones. There were bottles of strange liquids, brushes made from unusual materials, and rubber gloves that went all the way up to the shoulders. Sometimes wishes go poorly. The magic works, but humans are foolish creatures who don't think through the consequences of what they ask for. She pulled out one of the bottles, filled with a luminescent blue liquid. When that happens, there's often a mess. Physical evidence that needs to be disposed of. That's where you come in. "What kind of evidence are we talking about?" She smiled. "Why don't I show you? Follow me." She led me toward the back of the shop, past the beaded curtain I'd never crossed before. The back room was larger than I expected, filled with more shelves of occult items, a large table covered in candles and mystical symbols, and in the far corner, a door I hadn't seen before. Not the basement door, a different door. Madame Laveau unlocked it with an old iron key and gestured for me to follow her inside. The room was small and cold, like a walk-in freezer. But instead of food, there was a body on a metal table in the center. I recognized him immediately. He'd been in the shop 3 days ago, asking about a wish. Middle-aged guy, expensive suit, wedding ring. Now he was dead. His skin an unnatural gray color, his eyes wide open in permanent horror. "This is Marcus Grayson," Madame Laveau said casually, like she was introducing me to a living person. He wished for wealth. Specifically, he wished to be richer than he'd ever dreamed. I granted his wish. "What happened?" She walked around the table, studying the body like it was a curiosity. "Magic is literal, Ethan. Marcus dreamed of being a millionaire. He often had such dreams. So I made him richer than those dreams. I granted him $5 million in pure gold." That doesn't sound so bad. Oh, but it appeared all at once, in his stomach. I stared at her. $5 million worth of gold manifested instantly inside his digestive system. His body couldn't handle it. He lasted about 3 minutes before his organs ruptured. She ran a finger along the dead man's arm. Wishes are tricky things. People need to be very, very specific. I felt bile rising in my throat. You killed him. I granted his wish. There's a difference. He died because he was careless with his words. She turned those amber eyes on me. And now you're going to help me dispose of the body. No, no way. I'm not. $35 an hour. I stopped. Plus a bonus. $500 cash right now for helping me with Marcus here. She pulled out a thick envelope from her dress and tossed it on the table. All you have to do is help me carry him to the basement and forget you ever saw him. The basement. My voice came out as a whisper. Yes, where everything else goes, where everything disappears. She picked up the envelope and held it out to me. What do you say, Ethan? Are you part of this team or not? I thought about Sarah Mitchell, about her voice begging for help, about how many other bodies might be down there. I thought about walking away, calling the cops, doing the right thing. Then I thought about my parents threatening to kick me out, about how no other job would ever pay this much, about how nobody else would hire a high school graduate with no experience and no motivation. I took the envelope. Good boy, Madam Laveau said. And I hated how those words made me feel both ashamed and proud at the same time. We wrapped Marcus Grayson in heavy plastic sheeting. The body was stiff but still somewhat pliable. Rigor mortis hadn't fully set in yet, which made me wonder how long he'd been dead. Had he died in the shop? Had I been sitting out front while this man's organs ruptured in the back room? Together, we carried him to the basement door. Madame Laveau produced a different key from her dress, this one black and old, covered in strange symbols. Now, Ethan, this is very important. When I open this door, you will see things, hear things, possibly even smell things. You will ignore all of it. We walk down, we deposit Marcus, and we walk back up. You don't stop. You don't look around. You especially don't respond to any voices you hear. Understood? What kind of voices? The kind that lie. She inserted the key into the lock. The kind that will say anything to trick you into setting them free, but they can't be freed, Ethan. They made their choices, they got their wishes, and now they're paying the price. She turned the key. The door swung open, revealing darkness so complete it seemed to swallow the light from the shop. A smell wafted out. Decay, yes, but also something else, something sweet and wrong, like fruit rotting in sugar. And the sounds, oh God, the sounds, moaning, crying, scratching, and underneath it all, a wet, organic sound, like something enormous was breathing in the darkness. Remember, Madame Laveau said, lifting her end of the body, don't stop, don't look, don't listen. We began descending the stairs. The darkness wrapped around us like a physical thing. I couldn't see the steps beneath my feet, but somehow I knew where to place them. The temperature dropped with each step until my breath was fogging in front of my face. Please, a voice whispered from my left. Sarah's voice. Please help me. I'm so cold. I've been down here so long. I wanted to respond, wanted to ask where she was, but Madame Laveau's grip on the body tightened, urging me forward. You're just like her, another voice hissed. This one male, older, bringing her more bodies, more prisoners. You're a monster. More voices joined in, creating a chorus of accusations and pleas. He deserves to be down here with us. Let me out, please. I have a family. I just wanted love. Was that so wrong? My children. Where are my children? We reached the bottom of the stairs, and I felt rather than saw the massive space around us. The basement was huge, far larger than the shop above, and it was full of things. In the very center, I could make out a faint glow, a circle of light that revealed what looked like a cage made of bones and iron. Inside the cage, shapes moved, human shapes. "The pit," Madame Laveau said, guiding me to the right. "Over here." There was indeed a pit. I could feel the edge with my foot. It seemed to drop into nothing. "On three. 1, 2, 3. We swung Marcus Grayson's wrapped body and let go. I heard it fall, the sound going on way longer than it should have, finally ending with a distant wet splash. "Come. Time to go." As we climbed back up, the voices grew more desperate, more angry. Something grabbed at my ankle, fingers cold and clammy, but I kicked free and kept moving. We emerged back into the shop, and Madame Laveau slammed the door shut, locking it quickly. The sounds cut off instantly. I stood there, shaking, trying to process what I'd just experienced. "You did well," Madame Laveau said, patting my shoulder with her ice-cold hand. "Most people can't handle their first trip to the basement, but you're stronger than you look, Ethan. I knew you would be." "How many people are down there?" "Enough. Now go wash your hands and get back to work. We open to customers in 15 minutes. "That's it? We just go back to normal?" She looked at me with those amber eyes, and for a moment I saw something ancient behind them. Something that had been doing this for a very, very long time. "This is normal, Ethan. For us, this is normal. The sooner you accept that, the easier this job becomes." She glided away, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the $500 in my pocket. I should have run, should have called the police, should have done literally anything except what I did next, which was wash my hands, straighten my shirt, and get back behind the counter like nothing had happened. The afternoon brought a steady stream of customers. An old woman looking for arthritis relief. A teenager wanting a curse on his ex-girlfriend. A businessman seeking a charm for success. I handled them all mechanically, my mind still in that basement, still hearing those voices. Around 3 p.m., a young couple came in holding hands. They looked happy, newly in love. The girl had bright eyes and a hopeful smile. "Hi," she said. "We heard you grant wishes here?" My stomach turned. I knew how this would end. I knew what these wishes cost. But I smiled my customer service smile and said, "Yes, we do. Let me get Madame Laveau for you." I rang the bell. As Madame Laveau emerged to greet them, I realized something horrifying. I was already becoming complicit, already accepting this as normal, already prioritizing my $35 an hour over the lives of the people who walked through that door. The girl wished that she and her boyfriend would be together forever. The boyfriend laughed and agreed, saying nothing could ever separate them. Madame Laveau smiled and granted their wish. 3 hours later, I was cleaning up what used to be two separate people. The magic had fused them together. Their bodies literally merged into one grotesque sculpture of flesh and bone. They were still alive somehow, their faces frozen in expressions of horror and pain. "The pit," Madame Laveau instructed. I helped her carry them to the basement. This time the voices didn't bother me as much. I was learning to tune them out. When we threw the merged couple into the pit, I didn't even flinch at the splash. "You're learning," Madame Laveau said approvingly. "Soon this will feel like second nature." The worst part? She was right. By the end of my second week, I'd helped dispose of 7 bodies, 7 wishes gone wrong, 7 people who would never go home to their families, 7 envelopes of cash that I hid in my bedroom. My parents thought I was thriving. I bought them dinner, helped with bills, even talked about maybe taking some online classes. They were so proud. If they only knew what I was doing to afford my new generosity. But here's the thing that kept me up at night. Some part of me was starting to understand Madame Laveau's perspective. These people came to the shop looking for shortcuts. They wanted magic to solve their problems instead of putting in the work themselves. They wished for things without thinking about consequences. In a way, weren't they responsible for their own fates? That's what I told myself anyway. That's how I justified becoming a monster. It was the middle of my 3rd week when I met James. He came into the shop around noon, a skinny guy in his 20s with nervous energy and darting eyes. He kept looking around like he expected someone to jump out at him. "Can I help you?" I asked. I heard you could help with things, special things." "We have lots of special things. What are you looking for?" He leaned over the counter, lowering his voice. "I need to disappear. Like, completely. New identity, new life, everything. Can you do that?" This was a new one. Most wishes were about love, or money, or revenge. I'd never had someone ask to disappear before. "Let me get my boss." I rang the bell, and Madam Laveau appeared. She listened to James's request with interest, her head tilted like a bird examining a bug. "You want to disappear?" she repeated. "May I ask why?" I did something bad, and the people I did it to, they're looking for me. If they find me—" He swallowed hard. "I need to become someone else, somewhere else." "And you'll wish for this, knowing that wishes always come with a price?" "I'll pay anything. I just need to survive." Madame Laveau smiled. "Then I'll grant your wish, James. You will disappear completely. No one will ever find you again." She placed her hand on his head, and I saw a flash of purple light. James gasped, his body going rigid. "Thank you," he breathed. "Thank you so much." "Don't mention it," Madame Laveau said. "Ethan, would you mind helping our friend James to his new home?" It took me a second to understand what she meant. The basement? Where else? He wished to disappear. Down there no one will ever find him. He'll be completely safe from whoever he's running from. She turned back to James. "Congratulations. Your wish is granted." James's grateful expression morphed into confusion, then horror as he realized what was about to happen. He tried to run, but his body wasn't responding. The magic held him frozen. "Wait, no, I didn't mean—" "You wished to disappear," Madame Laveau said calmly. "I'm making you disappear. Be careful what you wish for, James." Together, we carried his paralyzed body to the basement door. His eyes were wide, tears streaming down his frozen face. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, but I could see the screaming terror in his eyes. This was different from the others. The others had died first. James would be going down there alive. "Please," he managed to whisper, the only word the magic would let him speak. "Please." I hesitated at the door. "Ethan," Madame Laveau said sharply, "we don't have all day." "He's alive." "Yes. And?" "The others were dead. This is different. This is exactly the same. He made a wish. The wish was granted. Now he pays the price." She studied my face. "Are you developing a conscience, Ethan? Because that's very inconvenient for both of us." He's going to die down there. Eventually. But that's not your concern. Your concern is doing your job." Her voice hardened. "Or perhaps you'd like to take his place. I could always grant your wish to be released from your employment." The threat was clear. I could help throw James in the basement, or I could join him there. I opened the door. The voices were waiting. "A new one. Fresh meat for the pit. Please, take me instead. I've been here so long." We carried James down the stairs. He was crying now, silent tears of absolute despair. We reached the bottom, and I could see the bone cage more clearly this time. Inside, dozens of figures pressed against the bars, their faces pale and desperate. Sarah Mitchell was there. I recognized her despite how much she'd changed. Her skin was gray, her hair wild, her clothes torn. When she saw me, her eyes filled with betrayed rage. "You," she whispered. "You work for her. You're just like her." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Sorry doesn't help me," she screamed, grabbing the bars. "Sorry doesn't get me out of here. You're a coward. You're a—" "The cage," Madame Laveau interrupted, pointing to a door in the side of the bone structure. "Put him in with the others." The others. There were so many others. We carried James to the cage door. Madam Laveau opened it with another key, and we pushed him inside. The moment we did, the paralysis broke, and James scrambled backward, bumping into other prisoners. "No, let me out, please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." Madame Laveau locked the cage. "You're exactly where you need to be, James, where you'll never be found. Your wish is fulfilled." As we walked back to the stairs, James's screams joined the chorus of all the others. By the time we reached the top and closed the door, I couldn't distinguish his voice from the rest anymore. We'd barely gotten the door locked when it started. My skin began to itch, not just a little itch, but an intense, burning sensation all over my body. I scratched at my arms and felt something weird. Myself different, harder. What's happening to me? I looked down at my hands and screamed. My sun was turning gray, not just pale, but actually gray, like stone or clay. And it wasn't just the color, it was the texture. My skin was hardening, becoming stiff and inflexible. "Oh dear," Madame Laveau said, examining me with clinical interest. "It seems you've been down there a few too many times. The basement magic is affecting you." "What? What do you mean?" "The basement has rules, Ethan. The living aren't meant to go down there repeatedly. Each trip exposes you to the magic, and eventually—" She gestured at my graying hands. "This. Fix it. Change me back." "I can't. This is magic older than me, older than this shop. Once it starts, it doesn't stop." She tilted her head. "But don't worry. You're not dying. You're transforming." "Into what?" Her smile was sad, almost pitying. "Into what I am, of course. What I've been for the past 143 years. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. 143 years. You're not human. Not anymore. I was once, long ago. I worked for the woman who owned this shop before me, just like you work for me. And just like you, I helped carry bodies to the basement. And just like you, the magic changed me." She held up her own hand, and for the first time, I noticed the gray tint beneath her dark skin. "Eventually, I became the new Madame Laveau, and someday, when I'm ready to rest, you'll become the new keeper of this shop." "No. No way. I quit. I'm done." I ran for the door, grabbed the handle, and pulled. It wouldn't open. I pulled harder, panic rising. The door was locked, but there was no lock on the inside. It should have opened. It had to open. "You can't leave, Ethan. The shop won't let you. You're bound to it now, just like I am." Madame Laveau stood behind me, her voice gentle. "I'm sorry. I truly am. But every shopkeeper needs a successor, and you're mine." "You can't do this. You can't keep me here." "I'm not keeping you here. The magic is. You've been part of too many wishes, handled too many bodies, walked into that basement too many times. You belong to this place now." I sank to my knees, staring at my gray hands. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. "How long?" I whispered. "How long until I'm like you?" "Months. Maybe a year. Time moves strangely for us. But yes, you will become what I am. And when you do, you'll understand. You'll understand why this shop exists, why the wishes must be granted, why the price must be paid." "I don't want to understand. I want to go home." "This is your home now." She was right. Over the next few days, I tried everything. I tried breaking windows. They wouldn't break. I tried calling for help. My phone wouldn't work inside the shop. I even tried writing a note and throwing it out the window, but the paper simply drifted back inside. The shop had claimed me. And my transformation continued. My skin grew harder, more clay-like. My body temperature dropped. I stopped needing to eat as much, stopped needing to sleep as long. I was becoming something else, something other than human. My parents called, worried because I wasn't coming home. I told them I'd found an apartment above the shop, that I was living there now. They were happy I was being independent. If only they knew. The worst part wasn't the physical changes, it was the mental ones. I started to see the customers differently, not as people, but as opportunities, sources of wishes, future residents of the basement. I started to think like Madam Laveau, and that terrified me more than anything else. 3 months into my transformation, I stopped seeing my reflection properly in mirrors. My face looked blurred, indistinct, like my features were being slowly erased. Madame Laveau said it was normal. "You're becoming a vessel," she explained one evening as we closed up shop. "Your old identity is fading. Soon you'll be able to appear however you wish to customers, young, old, male, female, whatever puts them at ease. It's part of what we are. Stop saying we. I'm not like you. Not yet. But you will be." She arranged bottles on a shelf with those long gray fingers of hers. "You're fighting it, Ethan. That only makes it harder. The sooner you accept your fate, the sooner you can begin to understand the importance of what we do here. What we do is murder people. We grant wishes. What happens after is a consequence of their own desires." She turned to face me, her amber eyes glowing faintly in the candlelight. "Tell me honestly, do you miss your old life? Working minimum wage at some fast food restaurant, being yelled at by your parents, having no money, no purpose, no power?" I wanted to say yes, wanted to tell her I'd give anything to go back to being a nobody with no direction. But the lie wouldn't come, because she was right. Part of me, a growing part, liked what I'd become. Liked the power of knowing secrets, of controlling fates, of being something more than human. That's when I knew I was truly lost. "I thought so," Madame Laveau said, reading my silence. "You're learning. Good. Because tonight, I'm going to teach you something new, something important." She led me to the back room, past the cold storage where we kept bodies, past her ritual table, to a door I'd never noticed before. It was small, barely 5 feet tall, and made of wood so old it was almost black. "What's through there?" "The heart of the shop, the source of all our power." She produced yet another key, this one red, like dried blood. "Every shopkeeper must visit the heart eventually. It's time for you to see it." She unlocked the door, and immediately I felt a pull. Not physical, but something deeper, like the room beyond was calling to me. We had to crouch to get through the doorway. Beyond it was a small circular chamber lit by a pulsing red light from the center. As my eyes adjusted, I realized the light was coming from something organic. It was a heart. An actual giant heart, easily the size of a car, suspended in the air by nothing I could see. It beat steadily, rhythmically, and with each beat, I felt a pulse of power wash over me. What is that? The original wish. The first wish ever granted, made so long ago that history doesn't remember it. A woman dying of a broken heart wished to love forever. And the universe, in its infinite cruelty, granted that wish. Madame Laveau approached the heart, placing her palm against its surface. Her heart was removed, kept beating by magic, transformed into this. And from it, all other wishes flow. I stared at the massive organ, watching it contract and tronson. If I listened closely, I could hear whispers with each beat. Thousands of voices, all overlapping, all wishing for something. "She's still alive in there," Madame Laveau continued. "Conscious, aware, feeling every wish that's ever been made through her heart. That's the true price of wishes, Ethan. Someone has to feel the weight of all that desire, all that desperation. Someone has to carry it. That's insane. That's torture. That's magic. She pulled her hand away from the heart. And someday, when her suffering finally ends, another heart will be needed. Perhaps yours. Perhaps mine. The cycle continues. The implications of what she was saying crashed over me. This wasn't just about running a creepy shop. This was about being part of something vast and ancient and terrifying. "I don't want this," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. "What you want stopped mattering the moment you took that first envelope of cash." She turned to face me, her expression serious. "You made your choice, Ethan. Just like every person who walks into our shop makes theirs. Just like I made mine 143 years ago. And just like my predecessor made hers before that." "How did she die? Your predecessor?" Madame Laveau smiled sadly. "She didn't. She walked into the basement one day and never came out. Became part of the pit, part of the feeding mechanism. That's how this usually ends. We serve until we can't anymore. Then we join the others below, feeding the cycle, paying our own price. The thought of ending up in that basement, in that bone cage with all the others, made my blood run cold, even as my blood was literally getting colder day by day. We left the heart chamber, and Madame Laveau locked the door behind us. For the rest of the night, I couldn't stop thinking about that woman, trapped in an eternal moment of heartbreak, forced to process every selfish desire that came through our shop. Was that my future? To become a vessel for other people's wishes? Or worse, to become the wish itself? The next morning brought a customer who would change everything. She was old, really old, hunched over a cane and moving with the careful deliberation of someone whose bones hurt. But her eyes were sharp, almost predatory, as they scanned the shop. "I need to speak with Madame Laveau," she said, her voice surprisingly strong. I rang the bell, and my boss appeared instantly. The moment she saw the old woman, her entire demeanor changed. Her confident posture stiffened. Her amber eyes widened slightly. "Madame Gris," she said, and I'd never heard that tone in her voice before. Was it fear? "Laveau." The old woman's lips curved into a thin smile. "It's been a long time." "Not long enough." "Oh, don't be like that. I'm here on business." She tapped her cane on the floor. "I need a wish granted." "You know the rules. Shopkeepers don't grant wishes for other shopkeepers." Wait, this old woman was a shopkeeper too? "Former shopkeeper," Madame Gris corrected, as if reading my mind. "I served my time, paid my price, and earned my freedom." Surely that affords me some consideration. "You didn't earn your freedom. You escaped. There's a difference." Semantics. She waved her hand dismissively. "The point is, I need a wish, and you're going to grant it. And if I refuse, then I'll tell your little apprentice there the truth about what really happens to shopkeepers, about the choice you're not telling him he has." I perked up at that. "What choice?" Madame Laveau's expression darkened. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." Madame Gris turned her sharp eyes on me. "Tell me, boy, has she explained about the reversal clause?" "Don't answer her," Madame Laveau snapped at me. "Madame Gris, let's discuss this in private." "No, the boy deserves to know." She addressed me directly. "Every transformation can be reversed. Every binding can be broken. But only if you know the method, and only if you act before the change becomes complete. You're Madame Laveau here? She's deliberately letting you transform without telling you there's a way out." I looked at Madame Laveau. "Is that true?" She didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. "You could have saved me? This whole time you could have reversed this? It's not that simple." "Answer the question," I shouted, feeling anger for the first time in weeks. Real, hot, human anger. not the cold calculation I'd been developing. Yes, she admitted quietly. There's a ritual. But Ethan, you have to understand. You lied to me. You told me this was irreversible. Because it should be. Because once you know what we know, once you've seen what we've seen, you can't just walk away and pretend to be normal. Her voice rose, passionate and desperate. I was trying to make this easier for you, trying to help you accept. You were trying to trap me, like you trapped all those people in the basement. The words hung in the air between us. Madame Gris laughed, a sound like a crackling paper. Oh, this is delicious. The student finally sees the teacher clearly. Shut up, Madame Laveau hissed at her. Then, to me, Ethan, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you manipulated me? How you let me think I had no choice? I looked down at my gray hands. Tell me how to reverse this, now. I'll tell you, Madame Gris said, in exchange for my wish being granted. Don't do this, Madame Laveau warned her. You know the price. You know what happened last time someone granted you a wish. Oh, that was just bad luck. Surely it won't happen again. The old woman's smile was wicked. So, Laveau, do we have a deal? You grant my wish, I tell your boy how to break free? What's your wish? Simple. I wish to speak with my daughter one more time. The air in the shop seemed to freeze. Madame Laveau went completely still. Your daughter is dead. I'm aware. That's why I need magic. I can't bring back the dead. Not really. You know that. I can give you a ghost, a shadow, an echo, but not her. Not truly her. An echo will do. Just let me hear her voice one more time. Let me apologize. For the first time, the old woman's hard exterior cracked, showing genuine grief beneath. Please. Madame Laveau was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well, but if this goes wrong, it's on you. She moved to the back room, and we followed. At her ritual table, she began arranging items, candles, bones, a lock of hair she produced from a small box. Your daughter's hair? She asked. Madame Gris pulled out a locket from around her neck and opened it. Inside was a curl of brown hair. She placed it reverently on the table. Madame Laveau began to chant in a language I didn't recognize. The candles flared brighter, the air grew cold. And then, slowly, a figure began to materialize above the table. It was a girl, maybe 16, with the same sharp features as Madame Gris. She looked confused, lost. Mama? The ghost whispered. Sophie. Oh, my sweet Sophie. Tears ran down the old woman's wrinkled face. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry for what I did. What you did? The ghost's expression changed from confusion to horror. What you did? You killed me, Mama. You wished for eternal youth, and the magic took it from me. Took my years, my life, my future. You murdered me for vanity. No, I didn't know. I didn't understand. You understood perfectly. You just didn't care. The ghost's voice grew stronger, angrier. And now you disturb my rest? Now you pull me back to this world? For what? To ease your guilt? I wanted to apologize. I don't forgive you. I will never forgive you. And I wish... The ghost turned its eyes on Madame Laveau. I wish my mother felt every day of the life she stole from me. No! Madame Gris screamed, but it was too late. Madame Laveau's eyes went wide. Oh no, she made a wish. I have to... The magic activated automatically. I watched in horror as Madame Gris began to age. Not gradually, but rapidly. Her skin withered, her hair fell out, her bones became visible beneath papery skin. She screamed, a sound that cut off as her throat collapsed. In seconds, she was nothing but a dried husk on the floor. The ghost of Sophie smiled with satisfaction, then faded away. Well, Madame Laveau said into the silence, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate? She just died. She was already dying. That's why she came here, why she wanted to see her daughter. One last attempt at redemption before the end. She knelt beside the husk. It didn't work. And the reversal? She was going to tell me? Oh, that. Madame Laveau stood, brushing dust off her dress. I suppose I should tell you, since she went to all that trouble. She walked to a shelf and pulled down an old leather book. It's in here. The ritual of unbinding requires 3 components: a piece of your original self from before the change, the willing sacrifice of someone who loves you, and the destruction of something you value from this new life. She handed me the book. The first one is tricky. You'd need something like baby teeth or hair from before you worked here. Something with your untainted essence. The second is self-explanatory, though good luck convincing someone to die for you. And the third, well, by the time most people could gather these things, they don't want to anymore. They've grown to like what they've become. I thought about the components. I probably had baby teeth somewhere at my parents' house. But the second requirement, the sacrifice has to be willing? Completely. They have to choose to die to save you. And they have to love you, really, truly love you. She smiled sadly. That's the real trap, Ethan. Who loves someone enough to die for them? Especially someone who's been changing, becoming colder, pulling away from everyone they knew? She was right. I'd barely talked to my parents in weeks. My friends from high school had stopped trying to reach out. I'd isolated myself completely. As for the third component, she continued, you'd have to destroy something from your new life that you genuinely value. Could be this book of rituals. Could be the key to the basement. Could even be me. She met my eyes. But by the time you've been here long enough to have something you value, you won't want to leave anymore. The trap was perfect, elegant, almost beautiful in its cruelty. Why are you telling me all this? Why not just keep lying? Because Madame Gris was right, you deserve to know the truth, and because I'm confident that even knowing the truth, you'll make the same choice I did. You'll choose to stay. She took the book back from me. You'll choose power over humanity. Everyone does, eventually. That night, after Madame Laveau retired to wherever she went when the shop was closed, I sat alone behind the counter, thinking. The gray had spread up to my elbows now, and when I breathed out, I could see frost in the air. I thought about my parents. I'd need to get something from their house, baby teeth or old hair from a childhood haircut. That was doable. But who would die for me? Who loved me that much? And what did I value from this place? The money, the power, the knowledge of magic? As I sat there in the darkness, surrounded by voodoo dolls and curse bottles, I realized something horrifying. I wasn't sure I wanted to go back, wasn't sure I wanted to be normal, human, powerless again. Maybe Madame Laveau was right. Maybe I was already too far gone. The shop's bell rang, even though the door didn't open. I looked up and saw a figure standing in the middle of the shop. I hadn't heard them enter. It was a woman made entirely of shadow, her form flickering like a candle flame. "You're thinking about escape," she said, her voice echoing as if coming from far away. "I can help you." "Who are you?" "I'm what's left of the first Madame Laveau, the real one, before the title became a curse passed from keeper to keeper." The shadow woman drifted closer. "I've been watching you, Ethan. You're different from the others. You still have conscience. That's rare. What do you want?" "To offer you a deal. I can provide the 3 components you need for the reversal ritual. Your essence, a willing sacrifice, and something valuable from this life." "How? I've been collecting pieces of everyone who enters this shop for 200 years. Somewhere in the basement, there's a box with your hair from your first day. That covers component 1. She circled around me. "For component 2, there's someone in the basement who loves you." "That's impossible. I don't know anyone down there." "Not yet, but you will. You'll have to go down there, into the bone cage and find them. When you do, they'll choose to sacrifice themselves for you. That doesn't make any sense. Time moves strangely in the basement. Past, present, future. They all blend together down there. The person who will love you enough to die for you hasn't met you yet in the normal world. But in the basement, they've known you for years. My head hurt trying to understand that. And the third component? I asked. The shadow woman smiled. You must destroy the heart, the original wish, kill it, and you break the cycle. You free yourself. You free the current Madam Laveau from her curse, and you free all the souls trapped in the basement. If I destroy the heart, what happens to the shop? It ends. All of it ends. No more wishes, no more prices, no more keepers. She placed a shadowy hand on my shoulder, and I felt an icy chill. But you have to choose soon, before the gray reaches your heart. Once it does, you'll be like her. You'll lose your humanity completely. Why are you helping me? Because I want this to end. I've been trapped here since the beginning, unable to move on, unable to rest. If you destroy the heart, you destroy this place, and I can finally die. Her form flickered more intensely. So what do you say, Ethan? Will you break the cycle? Or will you become another keeper, another murderer, another person who feeds innocent souls to the pit? I looked at my gray hands, thought about Sarah Mitchell and James, and all the others in that cage, thought about the woman trapped in that beating heart, feeling every wish, suffering for centuries. I'll do it, I said. I'll end this. The shadow woman smiled. Good. Then here's what you need to do. The plan was risky, suicidal really, but it was the only chance I had to break free before the gray reached my heart and I became something irreversibly inhuman. According to the shadow of the first Madame Laveau, I needed to wait for the perfect moment. When the current Madame Laveau was distracted with a particularly complicated wish, I would sneak into the basement, find the person who supposedly loved me, retrieve my essence from the collection box, then fight my way to the heart chamber and destroy it. Simple, except for the part where I had to survive the basement. The creatures down there have gotten stronger over the centuries, the shadow woman warned me. They feed on the despair of the prisoners. And there's something else, the keeper. What's the keeper? What Madame Gris became, what the current Madame Laveau will become, what you would have become. Every shopkeeper who fully transforms eventually descends to the basement and becomes part of the feeding system. They're stronger than anything else down there, and they protect the cage. Great. So I have to fight a monster to save people I don't know, including someone who apparently loves me despite us never having met? Time loops are confusing. Just trust it will make sense when you get there. Over the next week, I prepared. I stole a key to the basement from Madame Laveau's office, not the one she used regularly, but an old brass one hidden in a drawer. The shadow woman told me it would open the cage. I also gathered weapons. Nothing fancy. A crowbar from the storage room, a bottle of what the label claimed was banishing oil, and a handful of iron nails that supposedly repelled evil spirits. I felt ridiculous, like a kid playing in a Halloween store. But what else could I do? The opportunity came on a Wednesday evening. A wealthy businessman arrived requesting an elaborate wish. He wanted to be the most successful man in his industry, with specific parameters about timing and method. Madame Laveau took him to the back room, explaining this would require complex ritual work. It was now or never. I grabbed my makeshift weapons, took a deep breath, and opened the basement door. The darkness swallowed me immediately. My phone's flashlight barely penetrated it, showing only a few feet in front of me. The stairs creaked under my feet, each step feeling like it might collapse. The voices started immediately. Fresh meat. He's coming down. Finally, someone new to play with. I forced myself to ignore them and kept descending. The temperature dropped with each step until my breath came out in visible clouds. The gray skin on my arms didn't feel the cold anymore, but my human parts still shivered. When I reached the bottom, I swept my phone light around. The basement was massive, impossibly massive. It shouldn't have fit under the shop, but magic didn't care about physics. To my left, I could see the pit where we'd thrown bodies. It glowed with a sickly green light, and I could hear wet chewing sounds coming from it. I did not want to know what was down there eating the corpses. To my right was the bone cage, larger than I remembered. Inside, dozens of figures pressed against the bars, their faces gaunt and desperate. And between me and the cage stood the keeper. It had been human once. I could see remnants of humanity in its form, the basic shape of a person, arms and legs and a head. But it had been twisted by magic and time. Its limbs were too long, bending at wrong angles. Its face was a blank gray mass with no features except a mouth full of needle teeth. Its body was covered in symbols carved into flesh, glowing with purple light. "No one comes down here," it said, in a voice like grinding stone. "No one leaves." It charged at me. I barely dodged, rolling to the side as those elongated arms swept through where I'd been standing. I came up swinging the crowbar, catching the keeper in what passed for its ribs. The impact jarred my arms. Hitting it was like hitting concrete. It didn't even seem to notice. It backhanded me, and I flew across the basement, slamming into the wall hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. My phone skittered away, its light spinning crazily. "You're already changing," the keeper hissed, stalking toward me. "I can smell the magic in you. Soon you'll be like me. Why fight it?" I fumbled for the bottle of banishing oil, popped it open, and threw the contents at the creature. Where the oil hit, the keeper's skin sizzled and smoked. It screamed, a sound that made my ears ring. "That actually worked," I muttered, scrambling to my feet. While the keeper was distracted, I ran for the cage. The prisoners inside pressed against the bars, reaching for me. "Let us out." "Please, we've been here so long." "The key! Use the key!" I pulled out the brass key and shoved it into the lock. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought it wouldn't work, that the shadow woman had lied to me. Then, I felt the mechanism click and the door swung open. Prisoners poured out, a flood of desperate humanity. They scattered in all directions, some running for the stairs, others just collapsing in relief at being out of the cage. "Ethan!" a voice called my name. I turned and saw her, a young woman about my age, with tangled red hair and sharp green eyes. She was thin, too thin, her clothes hanging off her like rags. "How do you know my name?" "Because I've been watching you every day for 3 years. Every time you came down here, I saw you through the bars. Every time you threw someone in the pit, every time you fed us to the keeper, I was there. And I still..." She swallowed hard. "I still fell in love with you. That's insane. I've only been working here for a few months." "Time doesn't work right down here. For me, it's been years. And I've seen who you really are, beneath the gray. You hate what you're doing. You're fighting it." She grabbed my hands. "That's why I'm going to help you. You're the sacrifice, the one who's supposed to die for me. If it means ending this place, then yes. I'm Riley, by the way. We should probably know each other's names." Behind us, the keeper had recovered from the banishing oil. It was coming for us, moving faster now, angry. "The collection box!" I shouted over the chaos. "The shadow woman said there's a box with my essence." Riley pointed to a corner of the basement. "There! The archive!" We ran. The archive was a wall of small wooden boxes, hundreds of them, each labeled with dates. I found one marked with my start date and ripped it open. Inside was a small plastic bag containing a lock of my hair, darker than it was now, from before the gray. "Got it! Now we need to get to the heart." "This way!" Riley grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a section of wall. She pressed her palm against it, and a door appeared. Another door, another passage I didn't know existed. We plunged through just as the keeper's claws slashed where we'd been standing. The passage was narrow, forcing us to move single file. Behind us, I could hear the keeper tearing at the walls, trying to follow. "How do you know about this passage?" I asked Riley. "The prisoners whisper secrets to each other, share knowledge. We've been mapping this place for decades, passing information to new arrivals. We've been waiting for someone like you, someone changing but not changed, someone who could fight back." The passage opened into a chamber I recognized, the heart room. The massive organ hung in the center, beating steadily, that same red glow pulsing with each contraction. And standing in front of it was Madame Laveau. "I knew you'd try something," she said calmly. "I've seen it before. Every few decades, an apprentice gets ideas. They all fail." "I'm not going to fail." "Oh, Ethan, you already have." She gestured. An invisible force slammed into me, pinning me against the wall. Riley, too, was caught, held in place by magic. "Did you really think the shadow would help you out of kindness? She's been trying to escape for 200 years. She's told this story to dozens of apprentices, and every single one has ended up feeding the pit." The shadow woman materialized beside Madame Laveau. "Sorry, kid. I'm not trying to end this place. I'm trying to take it over, and the only way to do that is to corrupt a keeper in the making, to turn them into something worse than what came before." "You lied to me. I told you what you wanted to hear. Everyone's so eager to be the hero who breaks the curse. No one wants to accept that some curses can't be broken." Madame Laveau looked genuinely sad. "I tried to warn you, Ethan. This is what happens when you fight. It only makes things worse." The keeper burst into the chamber, its blank face somehow showing anticipation. "Finally. Been waiting to feast on a half-changed one." I was trapped. The ritual wouldn't work. I'd been set up from the beginning. Riley was going to die. I was going to become a full keeper or get eaten by that monster. And the shop would continue, grinding up desperate people for centuries more. Then Riley spoke. "Ethan, the book." "What?" "The book of rituals Madame Laveau showed you. You remember what it said about the third component? You need to destroy something you value from this life?" I did remember. And suddenly I understood. "I don't value anything from this place," I shouted. "I hate it all. The shop, the wishes, the magic, I value none of it." "Exactly," Riley said. "So the third component is you. You destroy yourself, the version of yourself that's been changing. You destroy the gray." Madame Laveau's eyes widened. "No, don't." But Riley was already chanting, words in that same ancient language Madame Laveau used for wishes. The invisible force holding us flickered. "I love you, Ethan," Riley said, tears streaming down her face. "I love who you could have been, who you still can be, and I sacrifice myself willingly to save that person." Her body began to glow. The light was painful to look at, pure and white, and filled with something I'd almost forgotten existed in this place: hope. The magic binding us shattered. I fell to the floor. Riley collapsed beside me, her body starting to fade. "No," I grabbed her hand. "Don't die for me. I'm not worth it." "You are. You will be," she smiled. "Now finish the ritual. Destroy the gray. Destroy the heart. End this." The keeper lunged at us, but I was already moving. I pulled out the iron nails and drove them into my own arm, into the gray parts, into the magic that had been transforming me. The pain was excruciating. But where the iron touched, the gray cracked and fell away like old paint, revealing my normal skin underneath. I drove nail after nail into my arms, my legs, anywhere the gray had spread. "Stop!" the shadow woman screamed. "You'll kill yourself." "I don't care." With each nail, more of the gray fell away. And as it did, I felt the magic leaving me, felt myself becoming fully human again. Weak, mortal, ordinary, Perfect. Riley's body was almost transparent now. Her sacrifice was fueling the reversal, burning up her life force to restore my humanity. "The heart," she whispered. "Hurry." I grabbed the crowbar and ran at the massive organ. Madam Laveau tried to stop me, but she was weak now too. The ritual was affecting all the magic in the place, unwinding it. I swung the crowbar with all my remaining strength, and it connected with the heart. The heart's surface cracked. Black blood oozed out, and the whispers I'd heard before became a scream. Thousands of voices screaming in unison. The woman trapped inside, suffering for centuries, finally having her agony acknowledged. I hit it again and again. Each blow sent cracks spiderwebbing across its surface. "I'm sorry," I said to whoever she was. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." One final swing, and the heart shattered. The explosion of magic threw everyone backward. The red light died, plunging the chamber into darkness, and then silence. When I came to, I was lying in a rubble. The heart chamber had collapsed. The entire basement might have collapsed. I couldn't tell in the dark. "Riley?" I called out. "Riley!" A hand grabbed mine. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You did it. Don't die. Please don't die." "I'm already dead, silly. Been dead for 3 years. I was the girl who wished for true love and got trapped here when the magic went wrong. I died in this basement long before you ever came to work here." She squeezed my hand one last time. "But I'm glad I got to help you. Got to save one person from this place. Riley, be better than us. Be better than all of us." And then she was gone, her body fading to nothing, finally free. I sat in the darkness, holding the empty space where her hand had been, and cried. For her, for Sarah Mitchell, for James and Marcus and all the others. For every person who died because of wishes and magic in this cursed place. Eventually, I found the strength to stand. My phone was miraculously still working, providing a weak light. The basement was indeed collapsing, the magic that had maintained it failing. I needed to get out. I climbed through the rubble, following the sounds of fresh air. The stairs were intact enough to climb, though they groaned with every step. Behind me, I could hear the pit filling in, the magic sustaining it finally dying. I made it to the main shop just as the sun was rising, light streaming through the grimy windows. The place looked different in daylight, smaller, sadder, just an old shop full of junk. Madam Laveau sat behind the counter, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked human. The magic was leaving her too. Her skin was losing its gray tone, her amber eyes fading to brown. "You actually did it," she said, her voice full of wonder. "You broke the cycle. What happens to you now?" "I don't know. No one's ever broken a keeper before." She looked at her hands, watching them become more human. "Maybe I finally get to die. Or maybe I get to live again. Either way, it's more than I've had in a century." "And the Shadow Woman?" "Gone. When you destroyed the heart, you destroyed everything tied to it. Every curse, every binding, every dark piece of magic." She stood up, wobbling slightly. "The shop is just a shop now. No wishes, no power, nothing." "Good," she smiled. "You're a better person than I ever was, Ethan. I hope you know that." "I'm not. I helped you kill people. But you stopped. You chose humanity over power. That takes real strength." She walked toward the door, moving like someone relearning how to use their body. "I'm going to leave now, going to see if there's any life left for me out there. You should leave too. Let this place rot." "What about the people who escaped? The prisoners? If they made it out before the collapse, they're free. Really free, for the first time in years or decades or centuries. She paused at the door. Tell their families they're alive, if you can. Give them that mercy at least. And then she was gone, walking out into the morning light. I stood alone in the shop for a while, looking at the voodoo dolls that were now just dolls, the potions that were now just colored water, the curse tablets that were now just etched rocks. It was over. I pulled out my phone and called 911. Told them there were people emerging from a collapsed basement on Marchant Street, confused and hurt and needing help. Then, I walked out of Madam Laveau's half-priced Occult Emporium for the last time. The shop burned down 2 days later. Police said it was faulty wiring, but I knew better. Places that dark don't just fade away, they consume themselves. I testified about some of what happened, leaving out the magic parts. Told them I'd been forced to help dispose of bodies, that Madame Laveau had threatened me. They believed me, mostly because 17 former prisoners backed up my story, all of them telling tales of being kidnapped and held in the basement. Sarah Mitchell was among the survivors. She'd been down there for months in her time, but when she emerged, only a week had passed in the real world. She couldn't explain what happened, said her memories were fuzzy. But she thanked me for letting her out. That meant something. I moved back in with my parents, got a normal job at a bookstore, started taking online classes, tried to be the person Riley thought I could be. Sometimes at night, I look at my arms where the gray had been, and I swear I can still see traces of it under the skin. The magic didn't leave me completely. It's just dormant now, waiting. But I don't fear it anymore, because I know the truth about wishes and magic and power. They're tempting, seductive even, but they cost more than they're worth. Every time. There are no half-priced wishes. There are no shortcuts. There's only the hard, human work of living your life and accepting that some problems can't be solved with magic. And you know what? That's okay. I'll take being human, weak, mortal, and ordinary over being a monster any day. Even if part of me will always wonder what I could have become if I'd stayed just a little bit longer. But that's a thought I shut down quickly, because I've seen what's at the end of that road, and it's not worth it. It's never worth it. 6 months later, I was shelving books in the horror section. Ironic, I know, when I felt someone watching me. I turned and saw an old man standing there, studying me with intense interest. "You're Ethan Reeves," he said. Not a question. "Do I know you?" "No, but I knew Madame Laveau, the real one, the first one, before she became a shadow." He smiled. "I was her apprentice once, long ago. I escaped, like you, broke my curse, like you. I've been looking for you." My blood ran cold. Why? Because there are other shops, other keepers, other places where magic feeds on human desperation. He handed me a card with an address. If you ever want to fight back, to save people from places like that, you know where to find me. He walked away before I could respond. I looked at the card for a long time. Then I put it in my pocket and went back to shelving books. Maybe someday I'd call that number. Maybe I'd help fight those other shops. But not today. Today I was just Ethan Reeves, human being, shelving horror novels and trying to forget that magic was real. Some fights are worth having, but some curses, you survive by walking away. And that's exactly what I was going to do.